As Michigan coach, Jim Harbaugh lost his first 5 games against Ohio State. In November of 2021, Paul Feinbaum of ESPN was asked whether Harbaugh could reverse this trend. Quote, No. You can ask me this question until I'm 150. The answer is still no. I don't think this Michigan team can beat Ohio State. This is a really good, if not great, Ohio State team, and I think there is something in Jim Harbaugh's brain. I don't know what it is. I don't really want to know. He is incapable of beating his biggest rival. End quote. I live in Ann Arbor, and it was easy to believe this conventional wisdom back then. Then, the unthinkable happened. The Michigan program that Harbaugh built has won the past 4 games against Ohio State. The conventional wisdom that Jim Harbaugh could not beat Ohio State was only true until it wasn't true anymore. It turned out that Jim Harbaugh built a strong program at Michigan and that a strong program gave him a chance to beat Ohio State. Here, let's look at 3 pieces of conventional wisdom for 2025 and why you should fade them. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been there for 18 seasons since 2007. At worst, his teams went 8-8 in 3 of those seasons. The conventional wisdom is that Mike Tomlin will not have a losing season in the future because of this track record. 18 seasons is a long time, and I do think there is some signal in this often stated fact about Mike Tomlin. He probably does get the best out of his players. However, the record also requires context. First, Pittsburgh has a very strong organization. In the 18 years prior to when Tomlin became head coach, Pittsburgh only had a losing record in 4 of those seasons. This stretches back past the Bill Cowher era and into the last 3 seasons with Chuck Noll. Let's dig a little bit further. Mike Tomlin has won 62.6% of his regular season games. In the 18 seasons before that, Pittsburgh won 60.4% of their regular season games. It might seem like Tomlin is superior to his predecessors. However, remember, Tomlin had future Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger for the majority of Big Ben's career. His predecessors had dudes like Bubby Brister and Neil O'Donnell. My second point of context for Tomlin also has to do with Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben won 63.2% of his one-score games over his career. We usually talk about regression in one-score games, your record in one-score games. However, when you isolate it to an individual quarterback in the NFL, I do feel like you get some signal. The data says that Tom Brady won 67% of his one-score games over the course of his career. The data also says that Patrick Mahomes has won 73% of his one-score games over his career. I think Mahomes is going to regress from that very high mark, but in no way am I saying that Mahomes is only going to win half of his one-score games going into the future. Big Ben retired in 2021. Since then, Pittsburgh has done even better in the outcome of one-score games. They have won 2/3 of those games, or 22 out of 33 games, for 67%. Remember, Big Ben only won 63% of his one-score games. And now Pittsburgh is doing even better with guys like Kenny Pickett and an old Russell Wilson. This is not sustainable. I think you need to get past Tomlin's record and really look at this team. They are bringing in Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. He was terrible with the Jets last season, and I really thought that he would never see the NFL field again. But here we go. In addition, the defense was bad last season. In my adjusted passing success rate, the Steelers' defense was close to NFL average at 14th. This is really bad when you have arguably the best defensive line in the NFL. The problem was almost certainly the secondary, and Pittsburgh brought in a lot of really good players in the secondary. However, these players are old. They signed cornerback Darius Slay, who's 34, cornerback Jalen Ramsey, who is 30, and safety Juan Thornhill, who is not exactly young at 29 years old. With a couple injuries on the defensive side of the ball and Rodgers not getting any better from last year, the floor is really low for the Steelers this season. Do not be too sure about the conventional wisdom that Mike Tomlin will not have a losing record. The conventional wisdom is that James Franklin can't win the big game. Before the playoff last season, Yahoo stated that James Franklin was 1-18 against top 5 teams. I have not verified this fact, but if it is true, you have to probably make that record 1-19 after a close loss to Notre Dame in the college football semifinal. But this last game really shows the randomness of what can happen when you have two elite teams playing the game of football. Most people will remember that quarterback Drew Aller threw a late pick that allowed Notre Dame to win the game. However, most people, including myself until I rewatched it, forgot that Notre Dame scored on a 54-yard touchdown pass to tie it late when a Penn State defender fell down at the line of scrimmage. Sure, I know, a safety whiffed on that play too, but it's probably almost impossible for Notre Dame to win that game without that big play. But let's zoom back a little bit. James Franklin is a great coach. He took over at Penn State in 2014 after doing the impossible, winning 9 games at Vanderbilt in back-to-back seasons. It took him a while to get going at Penn State, but he really broke through in 2016. That Penn State team won 11 games, including one over Ohio State, and they won a Big Ten championship. Over the past decade, he's also had some hiccups in 2018, and then also 2020 and 2021. But otherwise, Penn State has won 10 games every season. Just like Harbaugh, Franklin hasn't won the big one until he wins the big one. And this Penn State team is loaded with NFL talent. It starts with quarterback Drew Aller. We already talked about the devastating pick against Notre Dame, but he was otherwise great last season. During this offseason, I started looking at passing success rate for individual quarterbacks instead of a team, and then I adjust for the defenses that he has played. The result is that I expect Aller to have a passing success rate of 49.5% against an average FBS defense. This is significantly higher than the college football average of 40.6. On defense, cornerback A.J. Harris is projected as a first-round pick. It seems like Penn State has a lockdown corner. They lost Abdul Carter last year to the high end of the NFL draft, but they still have talent at the edge rusher position. Danny Dennis Sutton is projected as a round 2 guy. He had 9 sacks last year. It is hard to predict that Penn State is going to win the Big Ten or the national championship. You have to get through Ohio State to win the conference, and it's simply hard to win a national title. However, don't think that Penn State is going to underachieve just because of the conventional wisdom that James Franklin can't win the big game. This team has the NFL talent to make that happen. The conventional wisdom is that Mike Vrabel is a great coach, someone that can turn around the New England Patriots. I'm not really sure why people think this. However, I do believe that it's reflected in the markets. After a 4-win season last year, the markets have New England at 8.5 wins. Clearly, part of this is the promise of second-year quarterback Drake May. But a lot of people believe that another aspect of this win total is bringing in Vrabel. Let me make 2 points about Mike Vrabel. First, his best teams when he was coach in Tennessee were frauds. In 2019, Tennessee went 9-7. They won 2 playoff games before losing to Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. In 2020, Tennessee went 11-5, but they lost in the wild card playoff to Baltimore. In 2021, Tennessee went 12-5 to earn the top seed in the AFC. They lost in their first playoff game against Cincinnati. At the power rank to evaluate NFL teams, I combine a bunch of different metrics. This includes things like yards per pass attempt on offense and defense, and then also my team rankings that take margin of victory and adjusted for who you've played for. I do this so I can evaluate an NFL team over the course of the season. 4 of Vrabel's 3 best teams in Tennessee, the best team by these ensemble numbers was the 2019 version that finished 9th. Both those other 2 teams were outside of the top 10. Tennessee was able to excel during those seasons because of a healthy 17-9 record in one-score games. And they had Ryan Tannehill in those games, not Tom Brady. Second, Vrabel has made the most unfathomably stupid decision that I've ever seen in the NFL. It was 2023, his last year as the Titans coach. They were in London to play the Baltimore Ravens. The starting quarterback Ryan Tannehill gets hurt, and Malik Willis takes over. They're down 11 points late in the game, and Tennessee has a 3rd and goal from the 20-yard line with 48 seconds left. Mike Vrabel decided to kick a field goal on 3rd down. We often argue on social media about whether to go for it on 4th down. Mike Vrabel didn't go for it on 3rd down. Just because Vrabel might not necessarily be a great coach doesn't mean that New England will be bad this season. Quarterback Drake May enters his 2nd year, and when I look at his passing metrics, he was very close to NFL average when he took over as the starter last season. I feel like this is an incredible accomplishment given the injuries they had on the offensive line and that tight end Hunter Henry was his best receiving option. They tried to get better this offseason. They brought in wide receiver Stephon Diggs, but he is coming off a knee injury and is 31 years old. This offense needs to figure it out under offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. However, the conventional wisdom is that Mike Vrabel is a great coach. I am fading that in 2025. Thank you for listening. My name is Ed Fang, your host for the Football Analytics Show. This episode is part of the 2025 Preview Series, a daily series of podcasts to get you ready for football season. This preview series is brought to you by the Power Ranks Sports Betting newsletter. Looking for some action on any given weekend? This is the free service for you, as 5 Nugget Saturday is my curated list of tips in analytics. You'll also get my football betting resource guide. To sign up for free, go to thepowerrank.com. That's ThePowerrank. Members of the Power Rank get access to all my best predictions, analytics, and analysis. There are bets on football spreads, totals, and props every week of the season. To learn more about how to support my work, go to thepowerrank.net. That is a URL that will take you to a place where you can learn more about a membership.